In today's video, we are going to talk about ultra-processed foods, nominalism, freegans, vegans, beegans, all the gans, all of them. The behavioral sink and reducetarianism. That is right. Despite my resolute maximalism when it comes to interior design, furniture, transitional objects, books, ideas, things, wealth, power, money, status, fame, when it comes to nutrition, I am a dietary minimalist.
Less is more, family. Less is more.
We're gonna get through all this stuff in about 15 and a half minutes. Satisfaction guaranteed, or you can have your money back. What's up, family? It's your boy Danny, fresh in the flesh, back with another episode reminding you once again that you are beautiful, capable, and strong, which means that you are good enough for whatever fate cooks up and sends your way. And you're gonna stay that way because you are gonna eat meat, move weight, and stay on the perimeter of the grocery store. If this is your first time here and you want to learn how to make sense of your experience and learn how to proto-optimize your whole freaking life, well, stick around and find out. Rolling. Okay, first up is processing philosophy. That's a philosophy pun. You might have a vague idea in your head bouncing around or rattling around about what processed foods are or might be. You've no doubt heard me say that processed foods are all the food-like simulacrum that are in the center of the grocery store, that's on the aisles, as opposed to the stuff that's around the perimeter of the grocery store, with the that's real food. With the understanding, however, that there are some exceptions to the rule. There are exceptions to all the rules, except that one. Stay out of the middle of the grocery store, okay? Period. It's a great rule. It's a good one to start with. There is, however, an actual classification system that is used in the scientific literature called the NOVA system in all capital letters, which, believe it or not, N-O-V-A, it's not an acronym. I don't know what it stands for. I guess new. It means new, the new system. It's used to classify foodstuffs according to the amount of processing that they receive or undergo. Now, that's technically subject to interpretation, right? This means that unprocessed or minimally processed foods, processed culinary ingredients, processed foods, and ultra-processed foods all have technical definitions according to the literature. So unprocessed or minimally processed foods are raw or minimally changed foods such as frozen fruit, frozen vegetables, raw fresh meat or fresh fish. Processed culinary ingredients, which is group 2 under this classification scheme, are condiments such as plant oils, which let's call them what they are, seed oils, butter, sugar, syrup, honey, ketchup, starches, salts, things that are extracted from the group 1 foodstuffs, which are the unprocessed or minimally processed foods, by special processes such as pressing, grinding, milling, expelling, refining, etc. This, by the way, is a seed oil refinery for those of you that are hung up on what's natural. Now, if you've been here for any length of time, you know that word makes me reach for my revolver. But if you're into that sort of thing, doing what's natural, just remember,
Seeds don't have oils.
processed foods, group 3, are those which typically have just a few ingredients, such as canned fish, fruit, or vegetables, and fresh bread, but nevertheless they have an ingredients list and they have things added to them. Ultra-processed foods, group 4, are those that are made from substances extracted from foodstuffs, such as added sugars, hydrogenated fats, and starches, but often they have many added ingredients, including salt, sugars, fats, artificial colors, and preservatives. Although it's a lot more complicated than this, in my opinion, meaning like just because it's from group 4 doesn't mean it's bad, just because it's from group 1 doesn't mean it's good. I do have quite a few issues with the system itself, regardless, based on its own internal logic. Issues with the system.
I ain't gonna be part of your system.
I am willing to say, however, that it's an okay starting point despite these reservations. But for instance, dried dates would be considered minimally processed food, right? So therefore good, or getting the seal of approval from most people. Dried dates have a P/E ratio, that's protein to energy ratio, that's 0.03, okay? Cottage cheese somewhere around 1.1, right? That's my middle of the road food. I try not to go under that unless I'm carb backloading post-workout, in which case I actually shoot for ultra processed foods, generally refined carbohydrates. But generally my diet, when I'm going for healthy, right, to where it's something that's not going to make me fat, I'm going for a P to E ratio of around 1. Mr. Ted Naiman is the man here. Go to his website, use the P to E calculator. It's super easy to use. There's going to be a link in the description down below. I think shooting for something around 1 is great. It's a good starting point for a diet. So just because it's minimally processed according to this system, it does not mean that it can serve as the foundation, right, or the cornerstone of one of your meals.
Well, what about a snack, Daniel?
You're a f***ing adult. Stop asking me about snacks. Don't snack, okay? Second up, the Nom-Noms. Nom-Nominalism. It's another funny pun. Jokes aren't funny if you have to explain them, Daniel. It's my channel. I'll do what I want. Detour time. I am pretty determined to get my next big, conceptually and part-wise, lengthwise video series done on my next 7 days off, which is in between my 2 work rotations. I'm going to go over energy. We're going to go over it in detail there, so we're not going to do it now. I will explain why energy is a sometimes convenient label and why sometimes it isn't, or useful even. Ditto for protein and fat. It's not always necessary or convenient to refer to varying rates of energy production. Sometimes it's useful to just refer to energy in the abstract. It's not always useful to refer to individual amino acids rather than protein, or individual fatty acids rather than fat. That's why we use these labels. They are abstracted or layers removed from reality, which can provide explanatory power and concision, but it can also paper over things. We should remember that the things that we are labeling this way, for instance, amino acids or fatty acids, are not perfectly homogeneous and don't fit perfectly into our category. That doesn't mean they're not useful. For instance, another instance, $100 and $100 million are both money. Now, $100 million is also a lot more than just money, despite the fact that we call both $100 million and $100 money. Capisci? Capisci? Capisco, Daniel. Love covers a multitude of sins the same way that a label or a name, hence nominalism, covers over or papers over a multitude of really important differences. Should a protein food that's deficient, severely deficient in one or more of the amino acids be called a protein food at all? That is, should an incomplete protein be called a protein? Sometimes, yeah, sure. That is, should we be concerned with protein generally or individual amino acids? Should fat be considered the same kind of energy as carbohydrate? Should saturated fat energy be considered the same kind of energy as polyunsaturated fat energy or monounsaturated fat energy? Should vegetables and fruits that utilize farmed bees for the pollination process be considered vegan? Of course they should. Otherwise, what the heck would our vegan family eat? I suppose they could just eat legumes, wheat, certain fruits and oats and, restrict themselves to self-pollinated crops. There'd be no more almond milk. They could call themselves Beegans because they care so much. Of course, this would still be ignoring the massive ethical quandary that mass monoculture and mass fertilization would still pose for both vegans and Beegans, but at least the Beegans wouldn't be abusing the poor bees. It's rough out here on the edges of veganism. Anyway, the answer to all the questions we just posed about what we should be concerned with is, as it always is, it depends. Depends on what? On your meta-ethics, your goals, and the context you find yourself operating in. There is no rational way, however, to determine your fundamental axioms, including those that are the foundation of your meta-ethics. They are unproved axioms that you just adopt, that you start off with. You can't reason your way to them. They're freely chosen, but they are unproven by brute rationality or sheer rationality in the abstract. There's no rational reason to start off with killing animals is wrong as your fundamental axiom. It's just a feeling. And although I respect your feelings, the feelings in your body that you have do not automatically generate any sort of obligation in my body. That is, I don't owe you shit. Once you've figured out your meta-ethics, determined your goals within that meta-ethical system, and you understand the context that you find yourself operating in, I can help you achieve your goals, even if you're a vegan. All good coaches can do this. This is why curiosity about a person is the single most important element that a coach or a friend or just a human being interacting with another person, it's the single most important trait that somebody needs. So I really understand what you're saying and where you're coming from, metaphorically, and sometimes literally. I can do this. That help you. Whether you're a carnivore, a vegan, a freegan, or a Beegan, because I'm curious about you. I can also help you do this if you just want to do what I'm doing because you dig my vibe. Okay, that's the detour. End of detour. Back to processed foods now. It's exactly the same thing that this issue when it comes to food processing. This issue of nominalism. The name itself can obscure some really important things. Remembering that your meta-ethics, your goals, and your context come first. What kind of processing is it? What does it do to the food in question? And more importantly, what does the inclusion of this particular food in a meal do to the meal overall or your diet overall? That's a more important question than the classification that the food finds itself in, per se. Why does all of this or any of this matter then, Danny? Well, here's why. US kids are eating more ultra-processed food than ever before, startling data reveals. So what, Danny? Well, as we're going to go over in the energy series, it turns out that ultra-processed diets cause excess calorie intake and weight gain in inpatient randomized controlled trials. Now, this study is important and it's well done, and even though they were inpatient, it mimics what free-living people would do than some of the other studies I've seen. It's not perfect, but it's well done. But don't cook your meat well done. Your steak should not be well done. If you look at the pictures of the ultra-processed food in the supplementary material, which I've linked to in the description down below, and I'm probably flashing some pictures of those meals on the screen right now, you'll see that it still doesn't really match up with how people eat in real life, IRL. I don't see any soda or Doritos at all in the pictures of this food in the ultra-processed diets. And I don't see anywhere near enough chicken nuggets or French fries to mimic, right, or to truly be what people are eating in real life. It's still a great starting point because it is simulating free living, like I said, better than most studies do. We're finally starting to measure intakes based on a more reasonable food environment and ad libitum intake. Ad libitum. Which is great. That's how we should do this. Isocaloric studies are not always worthless, but I don't think we need to do any more right now. We're starting to ask why people choose to create the nutritional environments they do and why they choose to cease eating or stop eating at any particular meal. People on the ultra-processed diet choose to eat more calories, a lot more. And now the study did not last for years, right? But our study in real life of real people, that is our study of America, have been doing this, and we can see the results. They've been doing this since about 1975, and we're getting really, really obese. In fact, I think the 30 years ago, so I was already alive and almost 10 years old, the most obese state was Colorado, or Alabama or Mississippi at like 15%. The least obese was Colorado at like 8% or something. And now the most obese state is like, 30 something or 38% obese or even more. And that's obesity, not including overweight. And Colorado is up to like 15, but at, the overall percentage of the country, it's horrifying. And it's at, 75% or something like that. Something is missing, okay, from the ultra-processed food diet, and it's causing the body to eat more calories or energy in an attempt to, or what I hesitate to call food, to eat more of it in an attempt to get what's missing, right? What it's not getting. In fact, let's not even call it food because it isn't. I've got a video about this as well. It's my What is Food video, and you should watch that for more info on this. Satiation, or the end of a meal, is not 100% some consciously chosen, fully rational process or event. You're not always hungry because the body just wants infinite salt, sugar, and fat. And you don't just stop eating because you just simply can't fit any more salt, sugar, and fat in your stomach. That's not how satiation and satiety work, or hunger. Again, watch that video for more. Stomach distension is not the only thing standing between you and obesity. okay? There's a lot more going on. Hunger is because the body does not have something and it really wants you to get it. And it only has one way for you to do that, and that's eat. Hunger is a lack of something. It isn't some pesky, merely human thing that you need to overcome through discipline or self-flagellation. You just need to create the right food environment. And it is not hunger a lack of something in the way that a headache is a lack of aspirin kind of way. You're hungry for a real reason and for something real, a specific nutrient most likely. Now, what this means is that obesity is an indication of deficiency or deprivation, more so than it is of excess, depending on what nutrient we're talking about, or energy. Watch my What is Hunger video, again, for more on this. You'll be able to click on the title card in the upper right corner at the end of the video and watch that. Summing it all up, okay, what does this all mean? What all of this means, paradoxically, is that less is more. It means if you change your ideas about what makes something a food, because you watched my What is Food video that I was talking about, and my What is Hunger video, and massively restricted the scope of the things that you consider edible or the foundation or cornerstone of a meal, and I'm just to cut through all the bullshit, ground beef and rice, okay? That's where we start at. Ground beef and rice, steak and potatoes, right? That's where we start. Fish and potatoes, fish and spinach, okay? The basics. If you do that, you'll find that you end up getting more of the things that you actually need while eating less. So less is more. What do you know? I'm a Reducetarian too. I'm trying to reduce the amount of shit that you grab from the aisles of the grocery store, okay? And I think that's a reasonable approach. The same way that this vegan is trying to just reduce the amount of the amount of meat or animal products that people eat. I think that we should start off, those of us in the ancestral, paleo, blah, 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 whatever community, by just reducing the amount of processed foods that people eat. That should be the singular most important goal. In fact, most people, if they just cut soda and sugary sweetened beverages out of their diets, they see massive improvements in all their biomarkers and their weight and their health and their energy levels. So that's it for this week. It's your boy Danny reminding you that anybody can construct a healthy diet keeping a few basic principles in mind. Even Beegans. I just made that up, but they can. Avoiding processed foods is one of the easiest ways to do this, and it is something that all healthy diets that are sustainable have in common. Hi family, once again, there are a lot of links and cool little Easter eggs in the video description down below, so I suggest that you check those out and let me know what you think of the work of John B. Calhoun in the comments section down below. Here's your weekly reminder, one more again. You're a beautiful, capable, strong adult, and you're going to stay that way because you are going to eat meat, move weight, and avoid the behavioral sink that all the aisles and the center of the grocery store undoubtedly are. Chuck-a-deuce!